Check, check. 1, 2. Check, check. All right. Let's get this party started.
I just realized everybody is here to party.
Greetings and welcome, fellow barium inimists, fluoroscopists, and cross-table lateralists. I am your host, and I am not a radiology technician. Nope, I'm a technologist, and I've been in this field long enough to know that just because you came into my emergency room at 2 a.m. with a chronic back pain times 6 years does not mean the X-ray should be stabbed. This is the Radiologic Technologist podcast for RadTechs by RadTechs. Thanks for listening.
Hey, welcome everybody to another Saturday edition of Live Radiology Q&A. I'm your host, Ron Jones. I am a licensed X-ray and CT technologist. I have been to school for sonography. I have learned MRI. I have done IR procedures and ultimately ended up in management. The first title was clinical manager and then director and then to system director over the entire system of radiology in my network. I run these Saturday posts, Saturday videos for anyone interested in the field of radiology or techs or students. I have my own blog, as you see on the screen there, the Radiologic Technologist podcast, where I have over 200 posts that answer the most common questions, because we get a lot of the same questions. Let's see if I can't share that over there. So if you go to Facebook, if you're a Facebooker, and you go into the groups, there is the Radiologic Technologist group. There's me and Lisa at the top. Lisa is my wife of 23 years. She is also a licensed radiographer. And in this group, we welcome anyone and everyone from the field. We're at about 3,000 members right now. And we try to answer as many questions as we can. It's growing very fast. I try to admit members once a week. This last post, I believe there was 124 members that were waiting in the queue that I let in. And you're welcome to join the group. You're welcome to friend us on Facebook. And, of course, visit the blog as well at the radiologictechnologist.com. On the blog, you will see a lot of resources. There are study guides that I have uploaded over the course of a year. These study guides include everything from full-on anatomy. I took a bunch of X-ray film, changed blocked out the answers, and then created slides that have the answers so that you can quiz yourselves. And you can see right here that I've added every anatomical part that we can image in X-ray. And then if you click on them, of course, there's the blanks with the numbers to quiz yourself and then the answers. And this is also mobile friendly. So anytime in between classes or wherever you're at that you have extra time to study, there are your film anatomy slides. I also linked, there's not really a way to pay into a membership here. There's a Patreon link here on the side. But for the most part, we make the income that we make off this blog to pay for hosting off of Amazon affiliate links. And so I've chosen X-ray relevant links to add in there. These are the things that either I have found helpful or are similar to the things that I or my wife or my friends in the field have used to help them study. And so on top of the anatomy guides, we also took the time, I scraped together a bunch of actual tests from actual radiology schools. And these are pathology quizzes, positioning 1 and 2, sectional anatomy questions, patient care, physics. And as students send me their quizzes and their tests, I'm happy to convert them into a resource here for everyone. So know that that's there and free and forever growing for everyone that's interested. Of course, we have other things on that resource tab, including places to get personal lead, the right types of shoes. That's a very common question. What shoes are best for X-ray? And I have a lot of tech gear in there, tips and trips on passing your exams, and lots of helpful things on the resources. Memes, of course, is just as many memes as I can cram in there. I think we've got over 100 memes so far. Media is where we posted to our podcast, our short-lived podcast. It's dormant, but it's still capable of producing podcasts. They're just very time intensive, and I only want to do podcasts on the most relevant topics. So for now, the 2 podcasts that are in there that are an hour long, took a lot of editing, are relative to should we be shielding our patients or not, where I interviewed the actual physicist who started that movement, Patricia Marsh. And I did another interview of someone that I actually met in my Facebook group. She is the mobile radiographer for Hollywood. And so I interviewed her and got some great stories from that podcast. You should take a listen. There's a weekly newsletter as well you can sign up for. And of course, our YouTube channel. If you haven't found the YouTube channel yet, you should check that out. There's hundreds of videos on there as well, discussing all types of topics, including these Saturday Q&As. So if you're excited about radiography or you're checking it out and you have questions, check out any of those resources and you'll find things that we've already talked about, posted. And of course, we'll always accept new questions. You can reach out through the contact tab on my blog. Let me know what your question is. I'll be happy to answer it. I can usually get back to you within 24 hours. Sitemap is a quick and easy way to kind of see the topics of all the things that we've talked about. You can use either a Control F to pop open your own search bar if you're on a PC, or you can use the search bar up here and just type in what the most common questions are, and it'll show up on the site. So enough about the blog and the Facebook group, although the Facebook group is very interesting in how it's always evolving. I always post the live YouTube in there. I try to post the day before, if not the morning of, so everybody knows the time we're going live. We're rotating between mornings and afternoons just to kind of see what works for everybody better. And so, Darnell's joining us. You are the first one, Darnell, at least the first one to say anything in the comment section. So welcome aboard and congratulations again on getting into X-ray school. I hope you consider doing a journey, whether it's a written blog journey or a YouTube video journey. I know I talked last Saturday about one of my favorite new vloggers. She's an X-ray student. And where do we have her at? Sydney Lyra. Sydney is posting pretty much weekly about her trials and tribulations going through X-ray school. And so you can see she posted 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, a week ago, and then her most recent is 5 days, where she talked about how she got into X-ray school. And that's always one of the common questions is how do I get accepted into X-ray school? What are some interview questions? Help me with the TEAS exam or the Wonderlook exam or whatever the entrance exam is that the school you're interested in applying to. But yeah, start it whenever you're comfortable starting. You can always start it and just make it private. I've done that on a couple of different things and just kind of built up some posts to kind of see how it felt. And then when I was ready to go live with it, I just turned them all on and hit the ground that way. So consider that as well, Darnell, because I'm sure everybody would like to hear what it was like for you to get in, what your tips and tricks were, because not everybody gets in right away. It's not always first come, first serve. And seems to me there's getting to be more and more interest in what we do. And so more people are looking into the field of radiography. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about today that I mentioned in the Facebook group. I said topic for discussion. I think repealing the CQR requirements has come up for discussion again. And that has, of course, been a topic of concern among technologists for quite some time. The CQR requirements, if you don't know what they are, you can go to my blog and type in CQR and hit return, and it'll bring up an article that I wrote about it. I don't have the date it was written, but it's been over a year. And you can read about what continuing education requirements are, the three main components, what the compliance period is, how to study for them. And basically, it's not a test, is what they tell us. It's not a test through the ART. It's just it's a test that checks to see what your current knowledge is in the field of what you're licensed in. And they grade it more or less and tell you if they think you know enough or if you're lacking in a little bit, what they call prescribed or targeted continuing education. And a lot of technologists really struggle with this because we already have to do 24 hours of continuing education as part of our licensure every 2 years. And the other concern about this CQR requirement is if, let's say, you're licensed. In fact, I'll save that case study because I've got one to show you. But if you're licensed in X-ray and then you move on to another modality, you're required to take this CQR deal to keep your X-ray license. And you may not have been in it for a while if you moved on to another modality. So not only do you have to do 24 hours of continuing education credits to keep your licensure as a whole, now you have to take more continuing education credits that are specific and specified by the ARRT for the CQR requirement on top of the ones you're already taking. And so going to the conference in Chicago, if you're talking about the RSNA, there are classes there, yes, that you can get CEs for. Just going doesn't count, but there are definitely classes that you can take as part of that. I don't know if everybody knows, but there's a rad tech up in the New York area who took the time to sit down and write out a big, massive, and I don't remember how many questions it was. I'm going to say it was like 200 questions, but it gets you all 24 credits in one test, and the guy sells it for $20. So to me, that was kind of not the underworld, but kind of the pushback from this CE requirement to begin with. If you're going to make us do it every year, and originally it was only available through, the official channels, and it was expensive. I remember spending $150, $200 on CEUs, and of course it's required, and not every, I don't know, I've never sat down with a respiratory therapist and asked if they had to do CEUs, or a physical therapist. I know some positions do require it, but it seems to me that the world of radiography or radiology tends to pride itself on trying to be the forefront, the forerunners of more education, yet we're not seeing the return on investment in the terms of higher rate of pay. In fact, if the pandemic taught us anything, it's that we're at the bottom of the ladder and we're sent home in times of hardship and told to burn our hard-earned PTO to save the hospital a little bit of money. So let's dive into, and I found it on my group. There was somebody here that posted right here, Sherry Anderson, said, sign the petition, radiologic technologist against the CQR. Live, love radiology. Of course, that link takes you here to change.org. And I'm just going to read a little bit about what this is talking about to give you an understanding. And she's shooting for 5,000 signatures to then hand it over to the ART as a way of saying, look, we as technologists don't agree with what you guys rolled out without our approval as your constituents, and we would like you to roll it back. And before you might think, or maybe the ARRT might think that this is a large task or unreasonable, let's just look at the California requirement for fluoroscopy. For those of you that don't know, the California state licensure has required a separate licensure for X-ray techs for years, just to do their jobs. So, we all have to sit for the ART boards for our particular modality, but in California, they deemed that they were special, that they required a separate license on top of what we were already licensed to do, regardless of what we did in school. And that was an independent fluoroscopy license that, of course, cost extra money and extra time, and it was an extra test you had to do. And I'm sure it held up several technologists who were trying to get to work over there, but had to wait till they got their licensure. And about, I don't know, maybe 4 months ago, maybe it's been 6 months, but the California, let's see if I can pull that up real quick. California decided all of a sudden, hey, that thing we've been telling you you had to have no longer applies as of this January. See it right there? The end of the California fluoro exam. If you got your ART license after 2011, you no longer need to take the California fluoroscopy license exam. So what changed? Nothing. Nothing did. They finally sat down, and it's in my article, they finally sat down and looked at the examinations that we took, the rigorous training that we undertook in our radiography classes, and said, you know what? These guys learn everything they need to learn to safely practice fluoroscopy. We do not need to force them into taking more tests to prove their mustard. And here it is, a Radiologic Technology Certification Committee, or RTCC, subcommittee named the Fluoroscopy Content Within Current ART Examination was established in 2014. So this committee to review whether or not this extra license was needed was established in 2014. But here's the kicker. The committee, which was composed of representatives from the ARRT and RadTech school program directors in California, took them 6 years to get to the conclusion. So, in other words, they met in 2014 and decided, you know what, we don't need to be doing this extra licensure. And it took them from that time until October of 2020 for them to pass it and say you no longer need it. And it was just January of this year that any RadTech licensed after 2011 no longer needed it. So don't tell me that it's not possible to unroll the CQR requirement. It may take a while, hopefully not as long as it takes California to get stuff done. But let's just read a little bit about this. And this is Molly Mitchell who started this. Kudos to Molly Mitchell for taking a stand. I would like to start a petition against the CQR SSA requirements for radiologic technologists that have graduated in 2011 to the present time. We, as radiologic technologists, pride ourselves on the work we do and take it very seriously. We are required to complete 24 hours of CEUs every 2 years. We pay for those ourselves, as well as paying for our ART card and state license where required. While the CQR assessment is free, we are still expected to pay for the credits that will be assigned us after we take the assessment. Now, she goes on to say, I am aware that the ART is not considering this a test, but in many ways it feels very much like one. Although we cannot fail the assessment, we have to take the time out of our busy schedules and prepare. If we do not do well, then we are required to purchase approved CQR credits. These can get very expensive as well as very time consuming. Now let me just stop right there. So you have to take this assessment. It is not voluntary. You have to take it. And while they say you cannot fail it, that's their way of trying to say, don't stress out about it. Just take it and see how you do. But if you do not get a satisfactory passing grade, you have to purchase approved CQR credits. Now, that means that all these other venues that are finally coming out to help us save a little bit of money on our CEUs, like the one I mentioned earlier about the guy in New York, and I'll link to that in the sideline here in a little bit. These are some of the most expensive credits that you can get out there. They handpick certain CQRs, and of course, Now that's kind of one of the things that the CEU providers are trying to do, is write stuff specifically for this, because this it's like they opened up a new store. There's a new store down at the mall called CQR Credits, and everybody's trying to write their own exams to put in the store so they can make money off this deal. Meanwhile, who's the one paying for it? The techs. So let's continue on. Also, many rad techs have furthered their education and careers by cross-training and sitting for boards and other modalities. In my opinion, CEUs are more beneficial if they pertain to the jobs these technologists are performing on a daily basis. CEUs are a great way to keep us up on the changes and technology in our growing field, and being able to choose which area we best feel will help us in our career has been very beneficial to many technologists. And here's where she lays out the perfect case study. I have not done regular diagnostic X-ray in about 7 years. I graduated in 2011, the year this whole thing started, and dove into mammography. While I was training for mammography, I did hold jobs in diagnostic X-ray, but once I passed my mammo boards, I became strictly a mammotech. Why should I be expected to sit down for the CQR on diagnostic X-ray and do so well that I don't need any additional CE credits? My main focus is mammography, and has been for 7 years. I stay up to date on my CEUs and learn things that pertain to my main field of focus. Spending hours doing CEUs for a field I don't practice in seems like a waste of time and money. So that's your case study on going back. So if you want to keep any of your old licenses, which, who wants to go through all the schooling, take the test and pass the boards and get licensed and then let it go because you moved on? Like I'm certified in X-ray and CT, but I enjoy ultrasound more than anything. So I did ultrasound for going on 10 years. Why would I let my X-ray license lapse just because I don't want to mess around with these stupid CQR credits? But then again, I don't have to take them because I got my license in before 2010. So there's another, what changed in the schools? Nothing. Since 2011. What changed to say now you have to take more? You got to take this assessment. We got to make sure that you know what you're doing, but only if you've gone to school in the last 10 years. What did the schools change? Are they not as good as they used to be? So she finishes here, and we'll be done with this topic. I'm unfamiliar with any other healthcare profession that are required to take an assessment every 10 years. Radiologists have fought against retaking their boards every 10 years and are now no longer required to do it. Nurses, as well as many other healthcare professionals, are not required to complete any sort of 10-year CQR requirements. Some states are even still allowing medical assistants and nurses with only a limited scope X-ray license to complete X-rays. These particular professionals are not required to maintain 24-hour credits like we do, or any kind of CQR assessment every 10 years. So you see where this is headed? They're still letting 6 states out there do X-ray without any formal licensure, and they're letting practical techs and other people do X-ray. But the people who chose to dedicate their lives to the field of radiography we now have to take an assessment. And it's not me, brother and sister out there. I'm speaking on your behalf. It's not affecting me, but it's affecting a lot of you, and it's going to affect everybody from here forward. Do you really think it's the appropriate thing to do to require more rigorous pressure put on these technologists? Because if you're not seeing it yet, you're going to see it. Look around. There's not enough of us. There's already not enough of us. The schools are not putting out enough, and I choose those words carefully because I've seen our market when the schools pump out too many techs. They did that in 2010. We had too many schools pumping out too many techs, and it got a little harder to find jobs. But that solved itself because when you don't have enough places for students to be placed, the students won't keep going there. So I'll wrap this up. Unfortunately, these requirements have also discouraged some rad techs from acquiring additional registries. That's a shame. And that costs money to the ART. In turn, this may stunt the growth of many talented technologists who are capable of learning new modalities, which will then stunt the growth of our field as a whole. And I already went over that. We do not need anything to stunt our growth because these baby boomers are hitting us already in the healthcare system, and they're going to hammer our hospitals. And you think it's bad when nurses go on strike in California? If you ever see X-ray techs or the imaging department go on strike, you will see a hospital close down. Because you think about your patients that come in through the emergency room. What does the doctor do after his primary and secondary assessment? He orders lab and he orders X-ray or some type of imaging modality. If you don't have imaging in there, you're in trouble. So many of us are working in risky environments and are under a lot of stress during this global pandemic. These requirements have added yet another burden and another stress upon many technologists. It is my hope by getting these signatures, our voices can be heard, and the ARRT will take into consideration the concerns that many radiology technologists are expressing. So, read the petition, think about it, and if you want to support it, sign the petition. She's almost there. Her goal is 5,000. She's at 4,400 now. So, pitch in, do your part. Read some of the technologists who have said why they're signing it. If you feel like this is the right thing to do, but you're not quite sure, read what some of your peers are saying and why they are signing it, and then give it a look. And so, what's that? Darnell says, definitely won't be moving to Cali. Nope. 75-cent raise for, yeah, I wish. They should at least, you know what they should do is they should pay for our CEUs, Darnell. Our hospitals, if we're, so think about this for a minute. They require us to have a license to get the job, right? So if our license that they requires that we get continuing education credits every year, why shouldn't the employee or the employer pay for that? So if we have to have it to do our jobs, why shouldn't they reimburse us to go get them? I mean, they never have, and well, I can't say they never will, but they never have. It's always been up to us. Now, the good part of that is we're smart enough to know where to go get them cheap and or free. Because if you watch your emails, there'll be 1 or 2 CEUs fired off every now and then of things you just go read an article, take a test. Aunt Minnie shares a lot of that stuff. Your vendors, GE, Siemens, those guys offer free CEUs. And another good place to get them while we're on that topic, if you've got somebody at your facility that really cares about RadTech Week, that's another good time to show the love and spread the love of CEUs, because vendors will cough those things up like pins and coffee mugs. They've got CEUs, the little card that says good for 5 credits or whatever it is. I've had vendors from Bracco, GE, Siemens, Carestream. I mean, a lot of them. They've got access to CEUs, and you just get cards, and at RadTech Week, you hand them out and lessen that burden on the technologist. But I just encourage everyone to check out this CQR stuff and see what you think. And I'll get off the stool on that one. So the other thing that I said we were going to talk about was, I don't want to go off track here, using Xray technology to read unscratched lottery tickets. What do you think about that? Have you ever thought about, I wonder if I could use my C-arm to look through an unscratched lottery ticket? Because I have, and years and years ago, we almost gave it a try. In fact, I think we did. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. It's where I got this shirt. This is my Images Everything, if you can see it. Images Everything. And it's from my days at Mesa General, which is an old hospital that's now closed, long since closed. But wonderful things we experimented with at that hospital. Where did I have that? I had that right here. Dental, it was the dental X-ray article. So I always encourage you to go to Aunt Minnie daily, as a matter of fact, and see what they're up to. Read the current articles. And of course, I'm not encouraging anyone to do anything that's not legal. But isn't this interesting that they actually successfully used dental X-rays to read a sealed 17th century letter? researchers used a dental X-ray scanner to virtually unfold and read a sealed letter from the Renaissance in Europe, according to a study published on March 2nd in Nature Communications. This is believed to be the first time the technique has been used. Well, maybe to read a letter. Researchers at Queen Mary University of London's Dental Research Labs developed a microtomography scanner, which operates similarly to CT, to scan a batch of unopened letters from the 17th century postal trunk. The trunk was filled with undelivered mail that has been held at the Brienne Collection, Sound and Vision, The Hague, in the Netherlands. They said, quote, "We designed our X-ray scanner to have unprecedented sensitivity for mapping the mineral contents of teeth, which is invaluable in dental research," stated Graham Davis, PhD, a professor from Queen Mary University of London, in a university press release. But this high sensitivity has also made it possible to resolve certain types of ink in paper and parchment. The microtomography scanner can visualize minute traces of metal in the ink used to write letters. Metal in the ink. So relate that to MRI and tattoos, right? That allowed the researchers to turn the scanned images into letters that could be opened and read for the first time in more than 300 years. I think they ought to create a job like radiographic archaeologist. Wouldn't that be cool? That you'd be the guy that, or the gal that CTs the mummies or X-rays the artifacts found in archaeological digs. That would be way cool. If anybody out there ever sees this and you're one of those archaeologists and you need an X-ray guy for something like that, please give me a call. That would be way cool. The letters had been sealed using letter locking, a common historical way of turning a sheet of paper into its own envelope, according to the authors. Until now, people had to cut open historical letters to read them. This often resulted in damage to the letter's contents. And they said, it's incredible to think that a scanner designed to look at teeth has taken us this far, Davis added. Yeah, well, teach it to read through lottery scratch tickets, and then I'll be impressed. So you can read more about that article at antmini.com. And if you haven't been to Aunt Mini, of course, I should call them our unofficial sponsors because they haven't acknowledged me yet. But when they do, I'll be happy to let them sponsor the show. But you can see up here, regardless of what your modality is, they have a communities button. And you can scroll down. They have an AI community, which was 50% of the show floor at the RSNA a couple years ago. The AI is going to be undeniably a part of our jobs going forward. But there's a CT community, general X-ray, leaders or managers, molecular, which is your PET CT. There's an MRI board, radiation therapy or oncology. There's an ultrasound and a women's imaging. So let's say you're interested in becoming a manager at some point. There's articles in here about the different things that can impact management. So I also like their case of the day. If you go back to the main page, they always have a case of the day right here, sponsored by Siemens at this time, but they kind of show you what's going on, lead you through several of the different images, kind of tell you some of the symptoms, see if you can figure it out, and then they tell you what it actually is, which I'm trying to get rid of that stuff on our Facebook group. People like to post unusual pathology, then they never come back and tell you what the problem was, which is really frustrating. So that's antmini.com. It's really it's the Drudge Report of our radiology world. There's nothing really else out there like it, which leads me back to why I'm doing what I'm doing, because there's nobody else out there really talking about the current events and what's going on in the field of radiology. Although I'm very encouraged by all of the new blood, like Sydney Lyra, and please go subscribe. She's at 68 subscribers. I'd like to see her around a couple thousand at least, because these are people that have enough guts to go film what they're doing and show what they're going through and share it with you. And these are pretty, a 15-minute video of just sitting there telling you about what you're going through takes a lot of courage. Obviously, her and I aren't professionals at this. We don't have I mean, you can tell I'm in my office with other desks behind me, and she's in her room there with just a lamp next to her. So I'd like to see more and more people sharing their knowledge. Tracy Walker's another one. Tracy Walker is, I believe Tracy is in CT, and he gives a lot of helpful information as well. You should read. He's got a lot of stuff about people that keep you back, people that hold you down, and a lot of great advice about how to overcome the naysayers that tell you. And I had them too. And you see them when you get into the field. You go to take somebody's X-ray. You go to the ER with your portable, and you're shooting somebody's hand or something. You go, I was going to do what you do. But I had a family I had to take care of, or I have bills I had to pay, so I couldn't stop and go to school, or whatever the excuse is. And I just, I don't say anything because I had all that. I had a family, I had bills, I had full-time work, multiple jobs, and I still was able to go to X-ray school and ultrasound school. And I'm all the way up to my doctorate now, so don't tell me you can't achieve something because something else is in your way. And that's what Tracy Walker talks about a lot. In fact, I need to start grabbing this stuff and putting it over here for you guys so it'll be stored in the video. Go see Tracy and sign up. Tracy's already at 2,500 subscribers. And I'm not saying don't. You do. You do need to go subscribe. Subscribe to him. Go subscribe to Sydney. And then, of course, XrayRay is really rocking it. Great channel. He's farther along than I am for sure on how he produces his videos. Much more of a graphic artist than I am. Very visually stimulating. It's cool to watch the effects and stuff that he does. And he likes to develop things, tools that help us in our craft. He had, I think right here, he has developed his own cards that hang on your name badge that have techniques on them. And so now you've got a technique card that just hangs on your badge. And he gives stuff away. You can see over here he had a giveaway. Go check out XrayRay. I think Kelly Grace does some, but not a lot. Let me think. Does she actually? Yeah, some of this isn't necessarily X-ray, but some of it is. Pros and cons of working in the radiology field. Getting COVID vaccine. So go check her out if you like what she's putting out. Subscribe to her channel. And Julia, same thing. She's more of a general life vlogger, but she does have what's in my work bag for X-ray. Things I'm using to study and prep for the radiology registry. All about X-ray application process. Stuff like that. She does post about things in the radiology world. So go check out those channels and let's support each other in the world of radiology. And let's grow the amount of information we're putting out there so that the next generation that's coming along and asking what it's all about has input from us, people who actually did it, and not from school counselors who are over CNA, RNs, and X-ray, and they don't know one from the other. So that's all I'll say about that. You can see if I go to mine, where am I at? If I go to videos, I don't know if it'll tell me my totals or not, but I mean, this is, I don't know, 20 on there, so there's 100. So there's 100 videos total on the YouTube channel, and that's just the ones that I made and uploaded. Under the live section, there's another 33 where I've just done live things. Sometimes things just pop in my mind. I've even done some from the car, like the stress of being on call. I saw somebody posting asking about, how do you deal with being on call? And so I just pulled over and did almost 6 minutes on what call is like, because who do you want to hear that kind of information from? Somebody that's never done it, or your school counselor, or somebody who has done it for 20 years. So cool. Darnell, you're friends with Tracy. That's awesome. I dig them. I dig all those channels. I like them a lot. And I hope, another thing I like to do is to go to YouTube in general and type in X-ray. And then I think you can filter it. Yeah, you can filter it right here and just say, show me something in the last month. And, once you get through all the garbage, here's, I don't know what that is. X-ray tech tips. Yeah, that's something else. That's something else. That's something else. So here we go. So Julia, I showed you her channel already. A day in the life of being an X-ray tech. Here's XrayRays. Here's medical basics, beginner's guide to lines and tubes, how to read a chest X-ray. So just be careful, because anytime you get a generic name like that, you have to ask yourself, who are they? Are they genuine? Are they licensed? Because they may seem sincere, but they could be sincerely wrong in what they're saying. Let's take a look at medical basics real quick. Who are they?
I think that
So is there an about page? As medical students at UCSF, interns and future Stanford residents, we've learned a lot over the years. Here on our YouTube channel, we hope to share some tips. So according to this is students and interns from the University of California, San Francisco, I believe is what that is. They've had a channel since 18. So this one's probably safe. I look at the date because if it just sprung up in the last year or 6 months or less, then it's most likely somebody trying to capitalize on search engine optimization techniques and things that have told them that more and more people are becoming interested in X-ray. But this one seems at 8,000 subscribers. How to read a CT scan. While that's interesting to us, that's not our job, right? As technologists, we love to learn how to read what we're doing, and maybe even talk to each other about it in the control room. But it's not our jobs. We're not held liable for reading, so we just have to be very careful with what we know. The best time that this comes in handy for us is if we see something, like if you scan a chest and you see a PE, you can always call the radiologist and say, I think I see a PE, maybe you should take a look, whatever. And most radiologists are very appreciative of that. But these channels, they put this stuff out here. That means any layperson off the street now may go, oh, I want to learn how to do that. And they look at it and they don't know what they're looking at. And that's where you get your internet doctors, your Google doctors, who come to get their exam from you as a tech, and then they think they know what you're looking at when they don't, in fact, know what they're looking at. So anyway, kind of got a little off track there. My point was just you can go to YouTube and set your filter to show you the last month and see what's new. I didn't realize Minecraft had, Minecraft, yeah, had so much X-ray stuff. Yeah. So not a whole lot, and this is why I'm here. This is why XrayRay is here. This is why Sydney Lira is here, is because there's not a lot of things out there for people interested in the field of X-ray. Here's another one. Looks like it's more for doctors, talking about lung collapsing. So continue to keep yourself educated with Aunt Minnie and your CEUs, and come to the Facebook group and check out what's being talked about. Add your questions in there. For example, this week we had here's somebody, Nancy, thinking about going into radiology. I have so many questions. I'm nervous because I'm scared of being exposed to everything. So we're used to that, right? We're used to what we're exposed to, especially after you've been in the field for a while. In fact, the nurses are the worst. You get to know the ICU nurses, and they're not afraid of any bug. They'll tell you, yeah, if I don't already have it, I'll get it eventually anyway. That doesn't mean they're not being careful, and they all follow protocol. We know they do. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Interesting. I don't know what to do about that. So, you know what? I'm going to screenshot that. I wonder if I can. Wow. Sorry, folks. Technical difficulties is what I'm seeing. So I just screenshot this error message saying I am having trouble streaming. It's my internet here. I pay for the maximum amount of upload, and if I go to the next level up, it's like another $100 a month, which I think is ridiculous. I'm already paying, I think, $70 a month just for what I have. To go to 170 just to increase from 2 meg upload to 10 meg upload, I think I need to start a change.org petition. Tell my local internet company that they're not even providing me enough with the second level tier package to even stream to YouTube. So anyway, this is a good place to go for asking questions. This person asked questions about it, and they got 22 comments. So 22 comments to someone from people in the field explaining to Nancy how we're trained, how we eventually get used to it, what we do to compensate or prepare ourselves for what we see in the field. I try to post weekly a new article or share one that was already written. This is one that I spent time on. A lot of people focus on how do I get into X-ray school, and then how do I pass the boards, and then how do I get the job, and then they accept the first one that comes along. But I want you to pause and think about all that work and sacrifice that you put into the X-ray school itself, and then taking the boards, and think about all those clinical hours. Don't just apply to the closest hospital, or don't just apply to the one you did your clinicals at, although you should be doing your clinicals at the job that you want. We talk about that in another video, but this video that I'm referring to here, check the hospital before you apply. You need to investigate that hospital before you apply there, because there may be warning signs that you don't want to end up working there. So I don't have a table of contents on these. At some point, I would like to be able to go in there and put show notes, as they call them, that say at different minute marks what I'm talking about, so you can kind of jump around. But I guess some of them is how many CEUs had the facility had in the past 10 years, and the same for the head of nursing and human resources. But one of the things I'm trying to get to here is if the hospital you're thinking about applying to has had massive turnover, constant turnover, you may be in for a rude awakening if you get a job there, because anytime a company changes management often, it makes for a not so adherent team, a team that doesn't really bond together and work well together. So if you're interested in that, if you're at that stage, please watch that video and see what we go over about using LinkedIn to research the C-suite. That's the CEO, COO, CFO, CNO, all the COOs that are going to be in charge of your job, all the way down to your radiology director. Use LinkedIn to look them up, do researches on the grades that the hospital is getting. Go to the hospital website and click on their imaging tab, and it'll tell you all the equipment that they have. Do some research. I also talked about advanced advice on multimodality training, because a lot of people, once you get into X-ray, you start to think about, do I want to go to CT next or MRI next? And so there's some information on that. We already talked about Sherry's petition. I like to add at least a weekly post in there to get you thinking about your protocols, your techniques, what you might be struggling with. I asked this week what your least favorite exam to perform was, and a lot of people said bone survey. Of course, there's always the BE and small bowel follow through. I can't think of any fluoroscopy exams that I would rush to do over like a hand X-ray, but bone surveys are tough, and of course with digital it's a lot easier than it used to be with CR, where you had to run each plate, but or develop. Heaven forbid you had to develop those film. But the point of this is to get you to admit what you may be uncomfortable with, and then talk about how you can get better at it, or why is it that you are uncomfortable, and how can you address that. Because every tech is only as good as their weakest exam, right? Like the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. You're going to encounter a cross-table lateral hip. You're going to get a BE, maybe a lot less likely for the BE depending on your location. But think about these kinds of things when we're always striving to be a better technologist. Here's another one. Felicia says, I'm a nursing student and my fiance is taking an interest in the medical field, which I'm stoked about. He looked into radiology technology and we're having trouble finding schools near us. We live in LA. Well, there's got to be schools in LA. You just got to know where to look. Can any of you lovely people let us know which school you went to, preferably near California? Well, California's probably got 20 schools in it, but 24 comments. It reached 1,100 people. So 24 people commented about either where they went. Here, Tamara right here says there's Loma Linda University, Crafton Hills College, Chaffey College. So it's awesome for me. In fact, it's almost getting to the point now where so many people are on here helping me spread the word about what we do that I can sit back and moderate now. And in fact, for the first time the other day, I looked at all the comments and I posted at the very end, I don't disagree with any of these comments, and I think they're terrific feedback, and I feel like this question got completely answered, more so than anything I could have added, and I just ended it, and I thanked everybody for their participation. Here's somebody, Joanna, I have put together a list of pros and cons for becoming a rad tech, because they're thinking about X-ray versus ultrasound. I'd love to compare my thoughts with those in the field, so if anyone would like to share a pro and con or both, that would be very much appreciated. 29 comments and a share. And so, whoops. And then there's people asking for her to share the list. I would encourage you, Joanna, to share the list on the post, because that's how it will reach the most people. But in that same vein of the pros and cons of the difference between these two, I've already written an article and done a YouTube video on that, so that's my opinion of answering that question, but we always want more opinions. So it's interesting to read through those. So that's another example of the type of post that we see. And then I also allow vendors to come in and post their jobs, and to I restrict vendors that are just selling equipment, because you guys don't care about buying equipment. If you want to buy equipment, your director will be doing that for you. You can have input. They should be asking your input, but we don't need vendors on here harking their wares. I only want people that can share and give back to the community. But I'll always allow, I call them headhunters. I always allow staffing agencies to let us know what's going on in the country. And here she's looking for X-ray techs in LA and Orange County, and it's for a pediatric urgent care. Here's another question. What are the things you do on a daily basis when not assisting a patient? More so for hospitals. Trey said, I wash my hands. So you can see we're very active. These were all yesterday. Very active questions. I stay on top of it to weed out the spam, because I don't check every single person that gets into the group. It would be impossible. I do have some questions to get in, and if you don't answer them, you don't get in. But that's pretty easy to get past. And so as I see people posting junk, I delete it right away. And I rely on some of the members to come in. Like, here's an example. Amanda, there's 4 questions and she answered them all. She's basically looking into the field. So sometimes when when I know they're looking in the field, they may not know what to put here on this HIPAA line, because if they're not healthcare, they don't know what HIPAA is. But she's answered them all. She agrees to the rules. I'll let her in. This person did not respond to that question, and it makes me uncomfortable. I can't tell where they're at, but if you don't want to agree to the rules, you don't get in. This one, 4 and 4, love it. Okay, student of what? So I'll rely back that somebody's already in our group, and if they had been invited, it would say so right here. I'm a little bit hesitant on that name. I don't know if that's a real name or not. Conceited Bundles doesn't sound like it. Looking at their posts, it looks like, are they selling something? What is this? So I'll let them in, but I'll watch them, and if they come in here to start selling stuff, I'll ban them. So that's about enough. We're almost at an hour. Ryan's on. I've been granted an interview to get into RadTech program this coming Monday. Do you have any advice to stand out as a good candidate for the program? Good questions to ask. Yeah, man, that's a whole episode all by itself. Let's see. Where can we get you started? We've talked about this ad nauseum on different platforms. I'll still go over it with you, but let me see if I can't. Let's see, one of them right here, interview. Do the same thing on the blog and the YouTube channel and find out if there's anything listed on either medium that can help you. this might be interesting to you because I show the different job descriptions of an X-ray tech 1, 2, and 3. And so what will make you stand out is the more you seem to understand about the job without seeming cocky, right? You don't ever want to seem smug or smarmy or whatever words you want to use. But you absolutely want to show that you did some research. So knowing the difference between a Tech 1, 2, and 3, and they may have this tiered system, they may not, but they should. They should have a way for you to ultimately graduate, so to speak, into a higher position. And so look at that article to understand the differences or what is kind of expected to you in general as you grow in the job. But in that job, let's see what I talk about in this one. Public versus private, prereqs, classes and rotations. So you're talking about a job, no, a rad tech program. Okay, so you're not at the job yet. So forget that first one I talked about. You don't need to know this. That's for a job. You're getting into school. So let's talk about, you don't really need to talk about public versus private, but it is something that you can kind of show that you understand. Maybe this is a public school that you're applying to, so you could say, I'm interested in your program because I'm being conscious of my finances, and I could choose a private school that could probably get me in quicker, but it will cost me more money in the long run. And it's my understanding through my research that your education is equal to, if not better than that program. You know, blow a little smoke up their skirt, so to speak. And tell them that you're going there because you understand it's a great program at a reasonable price. Now, the opposite side of the coin is you're applying to a private school. And you can let me know in the comment section which one it is, maybe. And I can give you some more specific advice on that. But if you're applying at a private school, you want to say, I think it's worth the extra money to attend your school versus a public school because not only can I get in sooner, but I understand your program is equal to or better than any other program in the state. And so there's that aspect. You want to talk to them about the clinical rotations. You want to ask, how many clinical rotations do you offer as far as the physical location? Do you have 50 clinical sites, or do you have 3 and every student goes through all 3? So here in Idaho, it's pretty limited. We have one main hospital in town and a couple of smaller hospitals outside of town. So all the students from the one local school do a big fat rotation at the one hospital, but they also rotate through to the other hospitals that are in the area. So you want to know, and the reason you want to know where they're at is because the next question is, do you get to choose your clinical site or do they choose it for you? Because as we've mentioned before, I don't know if the University of Tennessee Med Center is private or public, brother. There's too many out there for me to keep track of. But the reason you want to know is because your clinical rotation is a giant job interview. So you want to try to get your clinical rotations at the places where you want to work when you graduate. That way they already know you. They've already spent 6 months or more training you. Really, once you graduate school, you're an employee ready to go as if they had trained you themselves, because they did. So a lot of people don't even ask that question. That'll set you apart. They just want to get in the program and get started. But ask how many clinical rotations are and if you get to choose. And then, maybe when are they chosen? Because what you want to do ahead of time is start looking at those different clinical, write those down, what they tell you. You want to look at those clinical options and determine which ones, maybe one of them's 2 hours away. And when I went to Pima Medical Institute in Mesa, we had stuff all the way out to Kingman and Yuma and all over the place. And those work for some people if they're able to drive out there and stay out there during the week and then come home on the weekends or whatever. But that's another thing to ask. What else could set you apart? The standard, why are you looking into it? If you can shadow, do you need to go past me? Okay, because it's distracting for you to stand there. So the other thing to ask is, that's exactly what happens, is I totally lose my train of thought. Check out, Ryan, the articles on my blog and the YouTube videos, and those will give you plenty of ideas. Look for Jackrabbit Joe. But Jackrabbit Joe's story was more about finding a job as he was going through school. What else? Anything else, Ryan? Been granted an interview to get into RadTech program this coming Monday. Oh, check out the school. So do a research on the school. So let's do it. University of Tennessee Medical School. Let's pop that in real quick. University of Tennessee Med Center School of Radiography. See what we get. School of Radiography, UT Medical Center. Is it in Knoxville? Is it that one? I think I've looked at this before. This looks really familiar. As a matter of fact, hang on a sec. Did we write an article on these guys? School review. School review. Go to my blog and type in review. Look at that, dude. Check that out. How would you like a complete review of the actual program, man? This is what I've been waiting for, right? How exciting is this? A previous student, look at this. Look at the screen. A previous student, these are questions that I sent out. So I ask students if they can to write a review. And when COVID was first out, I was offering $25 to any student that wanted to write about their program after they graduate. I want postgraduate. I don't want anybody in the program because you don't know what's going on halfway through it. But this was somebody that graduated from the exact school you're looking at, dude. And so here I got your program costs, the application process. Is there a waiting list? They talk about the classroom and the clinical breakdown. What was the hardest class? Hardest part about clinical rotations? Why this person chose the radiography program? Other programs, so that's cool. You can tell them, yep, you can tell them, well, I checked out your school and I checked out these other radiography programs nearby and yours is better. And I'm excited to even be here talking to you today. You know, they always love grease them, man. Grease them up. Did this person work? Did this person work during the radiography program? What equipment did this? That's another one you can use. Well, I know, I know some of the previous students that went here, and I know that you have a C-arm or a portable or whatever. This person tells, and I keep these anonymous just in case. I always tell them, don't smear the teachers. We all have good and bad teachers, and that's not what this is for. This is not to get back at any teachers that treated you poorly. It's an objective one, and it is biased because it's this student's opinion, and that's what I want. I want your opinion of your program. So, good thing you asked that question, huh? Boom. What equipment did they have? What do you wish your school had for study aids? Now, this is only a couple years old, so think about that. You want to stand out in your interview? If this person said that they lacked foam positioning, like say they don't have the foam positioning tools for hand X-ray, what if you said, I'm excited to get in the program. I hope you let me in. If you do, I saw that there was a school once that did a fundraiser by doing a car wash or a 1 mile fun run or whatever, and use that money to raise funds to buy new positioning sponges. And maybe I could do that here to help give back a little bit to my school that's going to teach me so much. Tell me that wouldn't set you apart, right? The school here locally, they do one every Halloween, and they say it's really for the kids to wear their costumes twice. And so they do a 1 mile around the campus, and it's like $25 to get in or whatever. You get a t-shirt, and the t-shirts are like $10. So they make $10 or $15 per person, and that goes to pay for whatever that graduating class wants to do. And that's something you can consider. So did the school adequately prepare you for the board? Were you allowed to shadow advanced modalities? On a scale of 1 to 10, rate the program on these different things. Give 3 tips for successfully passing the exam. Your advice for someone interested in getting into radiography. And so I don't think it gets any better than that, man. I think you just found an inside source So I'm going to wrap it up with that. Remember to tell your friends about this site. Tell your friends about my channel. Tell them about my Saturday. Hopefully I can keep doing this. It's kind of hard to find an hour on a Saturday. It's really hard to stick to a certain time. I didn't think I was going to make it on today. And sometimes I push it the day of. I have to push it back a little bit because there's so much going on. But tell your friends about my blog and tell them about my channel. Subscribe to the channel. Go subscribe to the other people that I talked about on here. Sydney and XrayRay and everybody that's doing their own channel, so that the more we encourage each other to put this kind of stuff like this review out there, the more it's going to benefit the next generation to make them even tighter when they apply, make them a better tech overall, which enhances our entire profession. And there you go. So Ryan and Darnell, thanks for hopping on today. And anybody else that watched that didn't comment, I appreciate you. Hit the like button if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel. Share this thing somewhere. Share this video somewhere on Facebook or on Twitter or Insta or wherever you're at. Share this stuff so that your classmates know about it. Share it so that other people that ask you, if somebody says, hey, I heard you're in X-ray school. How do you like it? What can you tell me? Say, hey, there's this guy named Ron or this girl named Sydney that are blogging and sharing the entire thing. If you really want to know about it, go see these people because they're just laying it all out there, naked, bare, right in front of you. So don't take the words of the school counselor. Don't take the words of websites from people who don't even know what we're doing. They're still calling us technicians, right? Come to me. Come to XrayRay. Come to Sydney. Go to the people that are actually doing it, and I hope to see you there. And you guys are the best. Thanks for joining in today. And if you have any questions for me, you know where my contact button is, right there on the blog. Send me a message. And Sydney, if you're still there, I did get an email from you last week after we did this, and I apologize. I needed to get back in touch with you. I did go check your most recent video this morning and left you a comment on how awesome you are and what a great job you're doing. And I'm so excited to see you posting. I know it's a lot on top of everything else. Posting just once weekly is a godsend. If you can manage that, you're ahead of the curve. I know it's tough. I see that you're editing too. That means it's taking you even longer, but you're putting out great material. Don't get caught up in any of the extra, like I thought about getting my green screen out today and doing the lights, and just be authentic. You're doing great. Don't worry about what's the lighting or what's the, make sure you got a good mic, and I think your channel is going to do great. So I'm excited. Hope to see you all next Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Peace out. I'm Ron Jones, and I approve this message.